start. Are we ready? Okay. You're holding still, right?
Wow.
Alright, so we're going to do the chocolate chip cookie formula. And in my mixing bowl, I've scaled my sugar, both sugars, both fats, and my salt. We're about to do the creaming method, the most used mixing method in the world of baking. I think you guys probably have already done it somewhere along the way because it is so used. So for these chocolate chip cookies, excuse me, starting to suck in the outside air. It's getting hot and humid in here. For these chocolate chip cookies, we're going to use that. There's another method called the sablage method. In that method, we would add our flour to this, and we would mix it together until it becomes kind of crumbly, almost like a streusel, and then we'd add our eggs. It's not the same structure of cookie, but it's good for people who, can't grasp the creaming method. Let's start with our paddle attachment. We're going to put that in the mixer. We're going to beat this together. Now, this is the most important stage right here. This is where it all happens or it doesn't. Okay, there's a little bit more to it. Borrow somebody's rubber spatula while I'm thinking about it. I didn't get mine out. I don't want to walk away again. Thank you. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix this together until it warms up enough that it sticks to the outside of the bowl. That's what I'm looking for largely. Okay? At first it's kind of running around and it's all loose and it's kind of chunky, but as soon as it gets soft enough and enough air gets beat into it that it sticks to the outside of the bowl, then we know that it's creamed enough. Okay? And we got our eggs here. Now y'all might have noticed that is not a round figure on eggs. Don't make that mistake. Some people go, oh, that's just 2 eggs. No, it's not. It's not 3 eggs, it's not 4 eggs, it's parts of eggs. You gotta whip all your eggs together and then scale them in. Otherwise you get chocolate chip cookies that are really eggy. And that makes them kind of cakey and not in a good way. It's not a good thing at all. Nice thing about using digital scales, you get some really accurate measurements, which should make some really good cookies. Also, our flour and our baking soda, both flours actually, we have pastry flour and cake flour, so we're weakening that pastry flour a little bit. We've got some baking soda here. We're going to whisk those together. Now you could use a mesh sifter, and I'm not against that, but for this, just to get a good even incorporation, get that baking soda all incorporated, this will do a good job. It doesn't meet the 3 criteria for the 3 purposes of sifting, but it meets at least 2 of them and possibly 3. It will break up lumps, but it won't remove impurities. So if you have a risk of impurities, chunks or lumps or something might have gotten spilled in there, it's a good idea to go ahead with the mesh. Now if you look down in the mixing bowl, come on over and have a look down in the mixing bowl, you'll see that the sugar, the fat, the salt, that's all stuck to the sides of the bowl. Okay, it's kind of creamy looking, it's lighter in color. That's what you're looking for. That's important because that's when you've created those air pockets that are necessary to hold all of this liquid. Now we're going to add this in about probably quarters. We're going to add a little bit of egg, and we're going to mix, and then we're going to stop, drop, and scrape. And you want to start off slow, a little bit of egg. Start that emulsion forming, just like when you make hollandaise, just like when you make mayonnaise. You want to start slow. Get that emulsion started. Once it starts, you hush. Once it starts, then it's going to pull together a lot better. Very important step, stop, drop, and scrape. And when I say scrape, I'm talking about the belly button. Uh-oh. I'm talking about that belly button down in the bowl. You want to make sure that you scrape down into the bowl so that you can see the belly button. You also want to scrape the paddle. You can push the paddle around. Get all those chunks of fat off. You don't want to find any chunks of fat and sugar later on because those are not going to incorporate evenly. We're changing the consistency and the texture of this mixture. We need to do that slowly, evenly, all the way across the mixing time. So that was the first quarter of egg. Here goes the second quarter of egg. You want to keep that nice, smooth emulsion. You all know what a good broken hollandaise or broken mayonnaise looks like. You want to try to avoid that. If it starts to look a little broken, you can throw a little bit of flour in there to help pick up some of that moisture that's breaking out. Hold that whole thing together. But if you go slow and steady and you scrape, you should not have problems with breaking of that emulsion. If you do break that emulsion, it doesn't mean that you stop. It doesn't mean that you throw this away and start all over. It means that your cookies are going to lose a little bit of volume. They won't be quite as even. And they might be a little flat, depending on how badly you break that emulsion. Nice and smooth. Here we go. I got about 2 more additions going there. Give this a little swirl. I got some heaviness on the bottom. Want to make sure I get all that egg in there, all the parts of the egg, not just the egg yolk, not just the egg white. That said, I said be quiet. That said, if you really want to hedge your bets on this method, it's not a bad idea to start with an egg yolk. So separate your first egg, add that to the weight of your egg, but then use an egg yolk to start. In the egg yolk, there's lecithin, which is a naturally occurring emulsifier, which helps that emulsion take place. And if you start with an egg yolk, you are a lot less likely to break your emulsion. So there's a tip for you for the final. Last addition, and I'm looking pretty wet here. I think it might have a little bit of trouble with this last bit of egg, but we should be okay. Nice and smooth, nice and airy, nice and even. It's looking good. It's on the edge, but it's all right. Scrape one more time just to be sure. Push the paddle around so I can get all the way around that bowl, get all the goodies in there. Want all those ingredients with all of their myriad functions incorporating all at the same time. All right, now we're ready for our flour, and we've already sifted that, so we can dump that in. And we'll go ahead and get that going. It's okay, it's gonna cook. Real slow speed to start with. We don't throw our flour out all over us. Let that incorporate mostly. I don't do this in stages or any of that, but I also don't incorporate it all the way before I put in my chunky bits. Chunky bits, of course, being my chocolate chips and my walnuts, which we were and then were not going to use and then were. Okay, so right about there is where I'm going to stop, because I don't want to overmix this, trying to incorporate my chunky bits. I don't want to get a nice smooth dough at this point. I want to use a little of that mixing time to incorporate those. That said, I want a nice smooth dough. So as soon as it's picked up all that stuff off the bottom, everything's nice and smooth, well incorporated, I'm going to stop. Now, something that you should do, and I know most of you will not have a problem with, is taste your cookie dough. And it's not, you're not looking for what you do taste, you're looking for what you don't taste. So take a small piece. You're not trying to eat a whole cookie here. And try it. And if you don't taste baking soda, now's the time to know that. If you don't taste enough flour, now is the time to know that. If you don't taste enough sugar, now is the time to know that. Because we can make that adjustment. Once they're in the oven and they're spreading all over the place, or something's going wrong, they're not spreading, that is not the time to know that. Okay? Because you can't do anything about it once it hits the oven. So try your cookie dough. Okay, and we'll come back here in just a few minutes and we'll get it panned up and we'll get it chilled.